Welcome, Grimdark Enjoyers, to another Homebrew Spotlight. This one was sent in by channel member Keel13, and it's Blood Angel's Death Company detachment, which I think serves as a good case in point for contrasting with GW's Lost Brethren detachment, insofar as the army rule here, I think, better exemplifies a thematic abstraction using the game mechanics available. Which is an important point, and it's a design philosophy that I think is objectively better. So I want to kind of put a spotlight on that in particular, but I've put the detachment up on a two-page view here so that hopefully you guys can take it all in. I hope I've sized things correctly for that. We'll see in editing if that's true. But anyways, share in the comments, guys, what you like and don't like about this detachment. Keep the comments constructive for Keel13. We want to reward the creative pursuit, because there's a lot of effort that goes into the creative aspect of the hobby. And given 10th edition's tournament mindset, it's something that isn't particularly encouraged by GW, but it's the real heart of the hobby. It's our tables. Like, we build the models, we build the tables, we operate the system. So we should be able to do what we want, and not be so hamstrung into competitive tournament official rules only. Anyways, the detachment rule here is a system, which is a stark contrast to the static rule that the official detachment has. But it's a system that basically works on doling out tokens, which effectively count as the warlord for the purpose of the back-end tools we'll be looking at. I'm going to glaze over the back-end tools a little bit, and we'll circle back to the army rule, because that's the area I kind of want to focus on, and I don't want to make this video super long and dry just going through it all. So we have a CP generation based on killing enemy units with these tokens, which warlord is serving as a catch-all term for units with tokens, or Oath of Moment in this case, as you'll see in the army rule. I guess point of criticism for the detachment, I would use a particular term or word instead of warlord, just for clarity. You know, death visioned, or come up with some unique term to use to point all of our different categories into. But you have a CP generator off a chaplain as an enhancement. You have an enhancement that allows you to count enemy units as having tokens, traitor tokens, if they're on an objective marker you choose. You have an enhancement here that gives the bearer's unit critical hits of 5+, which will help with things like lethal and sustained. So it's a pretty potent booster for offensive potency. And you have Crucible of the Black Rage here, which it doesn't say aura. It probably should, just for 10th edition rules writing conventions for clarity. But it's effectively an aura off of the bearer's unit, so it's a pretty big footprint that increases the feel no pain of those Death Company units, which is a very significant benefit. Going from a 6-up to a 5-up is big buku value. And on the stratagem side of the back-end tools, we have Armor of Contempt, of course, and Death 3 Repent, which is a pretty tasteful stratagem. Basically, when an enemy unit destroys any of your units, you can get a +1 to hit, and that unit gains a traitor token, which will key off the benefits of the army rule and the benefits of the enhancements we've covered thus far. Frenzied Reprisal is a little weird, because I see the intention, but I don't know if I am understanding it correctly. It effectively allows a Death Company unit that was selected as a target of a shooting or fight phase offensive attack to make a shoot or fighting ability before making its Driven by Fury move. So what's weird is the Death Company Dreadnought, get out of here, cannot make a Driven by Fury move if it's within engagement range. And so, I don't know if it really comes into effect, because if you cannot make the move, is this rendered useless? So that means it's only a shooting phase only stratagem. And if the intention is to allow you to shoot while in engagement range, I don't think that circumvents Big Guns Never Tire, because Big Guns Never Tire is for your shooting phase. So there probably needs to be some clarification on the intention of this one, but a reactive attack, I mean, the stratagem is functional in shooting phase only, right? Before you make your surge move, you'll make a shooting attack. Big value just in that alone, so I think that's actually fine, and it would make the stratagem simpler to resolve as well. Unless I'm missing some key Blood Angels context on this one, you guys let me know. Let's move on to Death to the Heretic. When targeting a Warlord unit or any of our token units, because they all count as Warlords based off of rules as intended, you add 2 to the charge rolls, and you could shoot and declare a charge after advancing with a Death Company unit. I think it's totally reasonable to give the Death Company advance and charge. So that's fine to see. Marked by the Betrayer. It's a defensive shooting phase when targeted by shooting or melee attacks. Until the end of the phase, when making attacks against or with that unit, you have +1 AP, and you can give your weapons +1 to wound as well. So it's a little... and when you... Let me rephrase. So until the end of the phase, you have +1 AP, and you can choose to get +1 to wound as well. And you get Hazardous if you choose for both. So you get a bit of risk for that extra reward, which is a nice trade-off. I like that design space. If the enemy unit is containing a Warlord or a Traitor token, and if it gets destroyed, you can select another unit visible to that unit to get the Traitor token. I would parse all of these out with bullets just for readability. That's my preference. I'm a big fan of bullets, just to make things easier to discern. Do you need to get a Traitor token here? I don't think it's necessary, but if you find that when you're playing this detachment and there's a lack of... that the system starts to fall off with regards to the lack of tokens being on the board, maybe it's necessary to have 2 stratagems that dole out tokens. Personally, I think just that top one over here in Death We Repent is fine. But yeah, the stratagem is totally cool. You have to survive being attacked, and you don't know if you will, so there's an inherent risk and trade-off here, but I think it's a serviceable stratagem. No quarter given is an enemy movement phase stratagem. When an enemy unit falls back, they have to take a Desperate Escape test, and they have to subtract 1. Which is fine. It's not very exciting or sexy to me. I mean, it's not a fault of the rule. The design space of Desperate Escape tests from falling back is just not that exciting, in my opinion, in 10th edition. But I think it's a flavorful choice based off of the intention. But with all that covered, I want to hone in on the army rule here. Don't want this video to go on much longer. Basically, here we have a system that is using tokens based off of marking key enemy units, and these tokens, again, are supposed to represent the Warlord. We're effectively using these tokens to describe the death visions of our Death Company units, right? These tokens only apply to Death Company units, the benefits anyways, only apply to our Death Company units. And you're getting +1 strength and attacks, which would work in melee and shooting, which is fine. I think, look, you don't have Oaths of Moments +1 to wound as a Blood Angels player. So I think that is a reasonable get for your shooting attacks. And again, it's only Death Company units, so it's going to encourage a more thematic build, I would think. And I can't help but draw the comparison to the Lost Brethren GW detachment, which, oh shit, where did we go? Anyways, might have to edit that out. Okay, so I can't help but compare it to this detachment rule here. And not only is this a poor design space, but like, what are we getting from this? You're getting an attachment rule that says if you're wounded, you get a mild benefit. And if you're gravely wounded, below half strength, you get a very potent benefit. However, because Warhammer 40k 10th edition uses a activation paradigm of you having to bear the brunt of the entire enemy army's activations through all the phases before you get to return back, it's not unheard of that you'll just get one-tapped. The 6-up Feel No Pain on Death Company units is, going to help a little bit, but it is only a 6-up Feel No Pain. It's not huge, right? It's a mild sort of benefit. And then there's also the added element that if a bodyguard unit gets destroyed, but the characters in that unit survive unscathed, then they still don't gain a benefit from this detachment rule for having their bodyguard unit wiped, because you become your own new unit again after your bodyguard unit's destroyed. It's just a terrible case of rules interaction that fails to abstract the narrative, compared to using these tokens to literally see Horus, or anyone, but it really, more fun if it's Horus, to see, there's Horus here, there's Horus there. Horus is everywhere, right? Because these are a death company. They're losing their shit. I think it's it's a stronger thematic abstraction given the mechanics available to 10th edition. And I think it's honestly more fun as well, and it's mechanically tighter, because you'll have these awkward interactions where, my unit was wiped, I guess I don't have an army rule, because you obliterated them completely. You didn't reduce me to half strength or below half strength, right? Or you wiped out my bodyguard unit, but now my warlord, or my character rather, is just out there with his dick in the wind, and with no benefit either, even though his unit was destroyed, right? This detachment rule here is just weak in all areas. It's weak on theme, it's weak on mechanics, and it's weak on mechanical rules abstraction. I don't know how else to term it, but that's an adage I keep referring to on these design talks. But this seems much more fun, much more tasteful. So I don't know how you guys feel. Again, leave constructive comments and feedback for Keel in the comments, because he was kind enough to send it in. And I wouldn't feel bad about playing against this detachment on the tabletop at all. I don't think it's too power grabby. I don't think it's too hungry for power. There's that one stratagem that's a little awkward with regards to rules intention, the Frenzied Reprisal. So maybe that requires some clarification, and maybe the benefits or the categories of overlap, which we're using to count as Warlord for our tokens, could use a catch-all term. I think that might clarify the functionality of this block of text a bit more and make the detachment easier to read as a whole. But barring that, I like what's here. Well, that's a wrap on this one. If you enjoyed this video, there are buttons for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thanks for watching, and a special thanks to Julius Maximus, as well as my other generous patrons and channel members. Patrons and channel members get early access to regular channel videos, as well as free access to various STL doodads. Just a little something for those who help keep the dream alive. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.